Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm meadsyreplays. Welcome back to the channel. Continuing with our lower tier tanks, our lower tier videos, we have the T1 Heavy. Now, this tank is absolutely fantastic for the newbie players, and I don't mean noobs, I mean the newbie players, the new players in the game. The T1 Heavy is absolutely fantastic. Now, we've already had a look at the KV1 and how it's not as good as it once was, and to be honest, there's no reason to play the KV1 when you have now the T1 Heavy. Now, the T1 Heavy is great in every way, every single way. It's got a tier 6 gun, it's got turret armor, it's got hull armor. I mean, 151 millimeters of turret armor and 151 millimeters of hull armor is great when you're in tier 5. On top of the armor, the DPM 1475, pretty good DPM, reload 6.5 seconds, penetration 128 and 177. With your APCR, pretty much you're going to get through anything that is coming your way, even when you are bottom tier. Average damage, you've got 160 alpha per shot, and your APCR is 135 and 200 on your HE. Aim time, not the best at 4.3, and dispersion, not the best at 0.407. However, it does have a nice 10 degrees of gun depression, and the speed is 34 kilometers per hour. Now, this thing is absolutely, it's really fast for what it is. You're going to look at it and think this is going to be slow, but no, it is completely the opposite. Now, if you're just starting out in the game and you're heading over to YouTube looking at how to play a tank, what lines to grind, then look no further than the T1 Heavy, because it will teach you everything about a tank that you need. It will teach you about the armor, it will teach you about the speed and angling. This tank will pretty much teach you everything that you need to know. And I always say, like, there are a few lines to go for when you first start the game, and I mean, the E100 line is a really good line until you get to the E100. For new players, you've got things like the IS7 line, even something like maybe like the Kranwagen line. There's a few lines out there that are really good. Now, the best thing what I would probably recommend is, if you are new to the game, don't always think that you have to stick with the one line. Don't ever think that, you know, you've started a line and you've got to finish that line. No, like, start a line, and if it's not for you, start another line. Or if you feel that you're not ready to move up tiers, then start a line. So if you're playing the T1 Heavy and you've learnt the T1 Heavy, then yes, you can move over to the M6, which is the tier 6 version of this, which is still pretty good, and then play that. And then after that, if you feel that you're not ready to move higher, then go back to tier 5 and change to another tank and learn that before you go higher, because these tanks will they will help you learn the game. Now, this game especially, I did this on purpose because on this account I'm pretty much facing against bots. It will go to show, like, as a new player, this is what you're going to be in. This is the situation that you're going to be in when you are driving these tanks. And as I've said, like, yes, this video can be used for the old time players that haven't played the tank, but mostly it is for the newer players that are coming into the game, that want to learn the game and they want to get better at the game. And of course, when you are lower tier like this, you're going to come up against bots, but even the bots are not great. Of course the bots are not great, but there's certain tanks that the bots just don't know how to deal with. They can't deal with, and the T1 Heavy is one of those. You're gonna get bounces, you're gonna get damage, as long as you're playing it correctly, and use this opportunity whilst you're against the bots to learn the tank. And that's the best advice I could give you if you are a new player into the game. Of course, the T1 Heavy is a pretty solid tank. It's pretty heavy as well, and you can do stuff like that and ram them and obviously get the damage as well. So almost 2,000 damage there in a tier 5 game. And of course, it's nothing special because it is against bots. I mean, there's about 4 bots on each team, and they're actual bots. I'm not just saying that because they're bad players. They are actual bots in the game, and you know that because if you click their profile, everything says 0, and that's when you know that there are bots on the team. But so far, I honestly think I've done a video not recently, but a while ago, about the tier 1 heavy, stating that it is probably now the best tier 5 in the game. Of course, there are other tier 5s if you are new to the game. There's not just one tier 5. There's things like the BDR that can also teach you the game and teach you the strengths and weaknesses of the tank and how to angle, how to hold down, and things like that. And that's what you need to do at these lower tiers. Get used to all that before you start going to the tier 7s, because for me, tier 7 is where it starts to change. Tier 5, of course, you're up against tier 6s. You're not up against anything too special. Of course, you've got things like the KV2, you've got things with high DPM, but when you start getting to tier 6, obviously, yeah, you get tier 7, but for me, tier 7 is where it really starts, and that's where you should be knowing. Once you're playing tier 7, that's where you should be knowing what you're doing. You should be knowing what you're doing, because there are a lot of players that play tier 8 premium tanks, etc. Usually that's the place to go, or it used to be the place to go when you want to earn credits in playing premiums. Tier 8 was always the most popular tier, so once you get to tier 7, you really want to be knowing what you are doing, and again, these tanks are they will really teach you the game. They'll teach you the game, and you're in tier 5. So don't think that you have to play tier 5 and then just farm up. When you've got enough XP, then get to the next tier. Like, only move up when you are ready to move up. Don't ever rush yourself, ever, because that's where you will go wrong, and that's where you're going to start sort of losing. You're going to start losing your win rate, your damage, and your insanity. Pretty much, you're going to not have fun, because you don't know really how to play these tiers, and you're just going to get wrecked all the time. I mean, this game here so far, we've got 2,000 damage. We're a one shot against 4 tanks. Of course, when you're up against bots, it does become a lot easier. But I'm just going to back up from this M6, because he's a bot. He's an actual bot, and we're just going to try and side scrape. We're going to try and side scrape. Luckily for us, he's not even really paying attention, so we are able just to farm him now. And of course, there is the TOG now. It's just 2 versus 4, and I'm a one shot, but I'm already on 2,500 damage. 2,500 damage, and there's still 3 tanks left alive, but I am a one shot. Unfortunately, Al Jackson is going to get taken out. Of course, even against bots, don't underestimate them, because they can still pen you. Now, I've lost most of my hit points from bots at the start. The KV1, which is a tier 5 as well, he managed to pen me a few times, and that was a bot. So don't underestimate the bots. Just use them. Use this time for your advantage. Use the time for your advantage to learn the game, and then when you feel that you're ready, then start to move up the tiers, because of course, the more you play, the less you're going to see of the bots. So by the time you get to the upper tiers, then you'll know what to do. So while you're in this newbie matchmaking up against bots and up against people with the same sort of skill level as you, use that to your advantage. Don't rush up the tiers too much. Just use that to learn. Use that time to learn, because you're not always going to be in this matchmaking. You're eventually going to get put into normal matchmaking, and when you do that, because you're used to just going into the enemy and them not being able to pen you, you're going to get absolutely obliterated. So always use that time. Play it like you're playing a real battle, of course, like I'm doing here. Play it even though you're up against bots. I mean, again, this TOG is a bot, so don't play it as if you're playing against bots. Play it as if you're playing against real people, and only that way you will then learn how to play your tanks, and you will perform really you should start performing really well. So we managed to get 1 lucky bounce there from the TOG, and I know what the TOG is like. I know the DPM of the TOG. I know it's a very difficult tank to deal with, and now it just leaves against the Tiger 131. And again, as you've guessed, he is also a bot. He hasn't literally moved all game. He stayed in the center, so I want to come out into a position where I could get a bounce from him. And again, I'm not taking anything for granted here. He's a bot, and the worst thing that you want to happen is to lose against a bot. It really is embarrassing. So yeah, don't lose against a bot. And we get lucky there with another bounce, and now I know I have better DPM. I know I have a better reload than him, so I can just come out. I am using APCR because, of course, I want to guarantee the pen, and we do manage to get the kill. So almost 3k damage there in a tier 5 against bots. I'm not gloating about it. I'm not like, whoa, look at that damage, because after all, it was against bots. But again, as I've said, use this time. If you are new to the game, use this time to learn the game, and then once you've sort of started to get the hang of it, started to get the feel of your tanks, then start to move up, and then eventually you're going to get taken out of the newbie matchmaking. You're going to go against proper real players of all skill levels, bad and good, but at least you'll know how to deal with your tank, how to learn. You've learnt your tank and use the weaknesses. You'll know the weaknesses of the tank, and you'll know the strengths of the tank. But I honestly agree, if you believe if you are new to the game, then the T1 Heavy is one of those tanks that you should be playing, along with the BDR in tier 5, the French tier 5, because that is also super strong. So I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Hope this helps for you new players. I'm meadsy69, and I'll catch you all soon. Bye bye.